Hey everyone, welcome back to Infinite Podcast with your hosts hitting the airwaves once again. So Simon, I stumbled upon this wild concept. Space farms are using some pretty next-level water recycling tech. We're talking efficiency at its finest, squeezing every bit of usefulness out of H2O. And get this, these systems, they could literally school us on sustainability here on Earth. Thoughts on that?
Water recycling in space sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie where plants have more high-tech gadgets than our phones. For real, though, if space veggies can live off recycled water, why are we still letting faucets run while we brush our teeth? Earth could learn a thing or two from those cosmic green thumbs.
Hey, latecomers to the podcast party. We're jazzing it up today talking about how space farms are revolutionizing water recycling. Think plants with better tech than your latest smartphone, all to make the most of every drop in zero-G. Now we're wondering why us Earthfolk aren't taking a page from their book. Stay tuned for more on these cosmic conservation tips.
Absolutely. How are space farms light years ahead of us? Here on Earth, we're tossing water around like it's unlimited, but in space, they treat water like liquid gold. Honestly, I'm starting to think these astronauts would do a better job running our water companies down here. They'd probably have us taking showers with one eye on a stopwatch.
So true, Simon. Astronauts need to be water-saving ninjas. Here's the lowdown. Space station water recycling systems recover about 90% of all water on board. Insane, right? And that includes moisture from breath and sweat. Back on Earth, our treatment plants are like, we'll manage with 50%. Also, these space systems use wickedly smart tech to zap contaminants with heat and UV light. No chemicals. So why aren't our cities adopting similar tech? We could bolster water conservation big time.
Hold on, they recycle what now? Like astronaut sweat turns into their morning coffee? That's both genius and a little gross. But still, here we are, flushing fresh water away. Seriously, our cities need to hop onto this intergalactic bandwagon, cut out the chemicals, zap the nasties with some sci-fi light show, and boom, Mother Earth gets a well-deserved spa day every day.
No doubt, Simon. Imagine sweating it out at the gym and knowing that moisture could end up in your espresso shot tomorrow. Talk about a circular economy. For real though, if we've got tech that can turn an astronaut's workout into a latte, then I think Earth's got some serious upgrading to do. Let's ditch the ancient pipe systems and get with the space age program. Save the planet and our water bills, one UV light zap at a time.
You're not wrong, but wait a minute. Imagine if your neighbor found out you were sipping on recycled shower water. There'd be block-wide gossip. Sure, the coffee might taste the same, theoretically, but good luck marketing that one. Eco-friendly lattes, now with an essence of Dave's post-jog glow. I think we've got to ease folks into loving the idea of advanced recycling before they'll give up those ancient pipes. Baby steps or the next big sip?
Haha, Simon, you've got a point. I can see the ads now. Try our new espresso a la Dave. Every sip brings you closer to your community. But really, who knew being eco-friendly meant getting to know your neighbors on a whole new molecular level? Well, if it's good enough for space, maybe we'll just start calling it astronaut chic and watch the trend take off.
Dave's special blend aside, we've got to admit space tech is setting the bar high for recycling. I mean, if a closed-loop system works when you're floating miles above Earth, surrounded by literal vacuum, then why can't we have something as efficient down here? Let's call it astronaut chic or whatever sells. But I'm all for bringing that space farm magic home. It's not just smart, it's survival with style. Saving the planet should always be in vogue, don't you think?
Totally, survival with style could be our new mantra. Space tech isn't just cool, it's crucial. Let's make saving the planet the next big trend. After all, there's no planet B to bail us out.
Oh, come on. Survival with style sounds like we're decking out bunkers with designer curtains. While we're all for saving the planet and looking good doing it, let's not kid ourselves. Style won't mean squat if we aren't alive to appreciate it. Are we just going to slap a fancy label on water recycling because it's the in thing? I say forget the trend setting. Let's do it because it's plain old common sense. The future's knocking, folks, and it doesn't care about our fashion sense.
Fair point, Simon. Stripping away the style angle, you think it's more about getting people to adapt out of necessity rather than making it trendy? How do we swing public opinion to see water recycling as essential, not just some fleeting fashion?
Absolutely. It's got to be about changing the mindset, not just the trend. We need to show how these out there space techniques are what could save our skins down here. Take space tech's fancy UV zapping. It's not just cool science, it's turning what we sweat out into what we drink up without the nasties. We make it essential by showing the real deal. Water is finite, and if some brainiacs in zero gravity can respect that, so can we. Let's get practical and bring this cosmic perspective down to Earth.
Hey there, fresh listeners. You've just beamed into a hearty chat about space farms and their out-of-this-world water recycling. Picture this. Astronauts are turning every little bit of sweat and humidity into the water they drink and use to grow food. Zero gravity, zero waste. It's high time we embrace this stellar strategy back on Earth. After all, if it's smart enough for the stars, it sure can work for us land dwellers too.
Look, I get the whole let's be like astronauts vibe, but playing devil's advocate here, what works up there might not be a silver bullet for us down on terra firma. Space farms are in controlled environments where they keep tabs on every molecule. Earth is messy, unpredictable. It's going to take more than neat gadgets to overhaul our thirsty habits. Sure, water recycling is cool and all, but will it scale to meet global needs without a hitch? Not so fast. We've got infrastructure, economics, and old habits to fight against here.
You're hitting the nail on the head, Simon. Here's the scoop. Space is a pristine lab. Every variable's controlled. Back on Earth, we've got a messy jumble of ecosystems, crumbling infrastructure, and complex socioeconomic layers. It's true, adopting space farm tech planet-wide ain't gonna be a walk in the park. Fact bomb, the US alone uses about 322 billion gallons of water daily. Our infrastructure? Some of it dates back over 100 years old and loses billions of gallons to leaks every day. Upgrading that? Not just a wallet buster, but also a logistical labyrinth. The global economy is another beast. Water pricing, access rights, and politics are intertwined. Plus, the one-size-fits-all myth? Forget it. Each region's got its own environmental and economic puzzles, and habits, oh boy, they die hard. From long showers to lawn obsessing, changing those comforts takes more than gadgets. It's a cultural shift. So yes, scaling matters, roadblocks abound. But hey, every epic journey started with one gritty, bold step. Think of Rome. Built in a day? Nope. But worth the effort, right?
For sure, Rome wasn't built in a day, but even the Romans had their aqueducts sorted out. In today's world, upgrading our ancient waterworks is like replacing pipes with straws. It sounds simple until you realize there's a whole city on top of them. And let's talk cash. Who's footing the bill? Taxpayers may not want to pay upfront for invisible benefits. Then you've got folks freaking out about drinking yesterday's bathwater despite tech proving it's clean. We need a massive PR campaign to convince people that high-tech recycling isn't sci-fi, it's just plain smart. We're boiling down oceans into teacups here. It's not just fixing leaks, it's about rewiring the whole shebang, from policies and prices to Aunt Edna's petunias. Let alone putting all that space gear into action. I say we start small, promote rain barrels, push for shower timers, baby steps before we leap to the stars.
By the way, did you know that there's a beer in Sweden made from recycled water? Talk about a conversation starter at the bar.
No way. Swedes are out there, turning waste into a party. I guess if the beer's good, who cares where the water's from? But speaking of wild brews and new frontiers, imagine kicking back with a Martian red ale. Transitioning here, but think about it. We're plotting farms on Mars. What crops do you reckon will grow for that first space harvest? Will it be space spuds like in the movies, or is the red planet going to sprout up some unexpected greens? Space agriculture's the next big leap for budding interplanetary farmers market, right?
All right, let's dig into this galactic garden talk. It's fascinating stuff. We've got scientists and space agencies brainstorming the future of Martian agriculture as we speak. There's real research focusing on what crops could actually survive that harsh Martian environment. It's not just about picking your favorite veggies and space launching them up there. Now here are some juicy factoids. Mars has got soil with basic nutrients plants need, but it's also got perchlorates, nasty chemicals toxic to humans. Those need dealing with before we even think about planting. Plus, Martian gravity is only about 38% that of Earth's, which could play out in some weird ways for plant growth. Not gonna lie, no one's sure how it'll affect flavors or textures. Then there's the thin atmosphere and intense radiation. It means you're looking at underground or shielded greenhouses using artificial light instead of the distant sun. Hydroponics and aeroponics systems will probably star in this show, where roots get misted with nutrient-rich solutions. Think watering plants, but make it sci-fi. Given all these challenges, our future Martian menu looks like it's going to have a ton of leafy greens because they can handle harsh climates. Stuff like kale and spinach, tough little guys. Scientists also have eyes on algae because it's a nutritional powerhouse and grows almost anywhere. But let's be honest, sustaining morale during those long Martian winters? We're going to need comfort food. I'm betting on potatoes. They've been humanity's ride or die for centuries and could balance carbs needs too. And who knows, maybe we'll see Martian sushi roll featuring microgreens and space-cultivated pseudo-rice. Space foodies, eat your heart out.
All this fancy space farming talk, I'm just saying, if we start growing wasabi on Mars, those interplanetary sushi rolls better come with a warning label. Spicy enough to blast you back to Earth.
Imagine the astronaut floating away after a sneeze from that Mars-grown wasabi. One small bite for man, one giant leap backward for mankind.
Definitely. Picture this, an entire greenhouse just for Martian wasabi. But seriously, besides making astronauts' eyes water in zero-G, we've got to prioritize what'll really work on Mars. We'll probably start with plants that don't mind a bit of neglect. Think sturdy fellas like radishes, soybeans, or peas. And it's not just about growing stuff, it's also about what feels like home. Food isn't just calories, it's comfort, history, culture. Potatoes might be the staple, but what if someone gets a craving for spicy chili peppers or fresh basil? Won't those be mood boosters when you're millions of miles from your favorite taco joint? Plus, we gotta balance nutrition with yummies. Variety's key up there. Nobody wants to travel to another planet just to eat space spinach every day. We might have folks watering tomatoes thinking this caprese could use some mods, or crushing peanuts going, Martian pad thai tonight, folks. We're creating more than a menu. We're setting the table for Mars's first generation. Now, how cool is that?
Welcome aboard, cosmic culinary aficionados. We've been chopping it up about the Martian agriculture scene. Picture this. Greenhouses packed with hardy space crops, maybe a spicy sprig of Mars-grown wasabi that'll send astronauts into orbit, and we can't forget those hearty, reliable potatoes for a taste of home. It's not just about farming red rocks. Future Mars menus will be all about variety, from your basic radishes to tears in your space helmet chili peppers. We're setting the stage for a whole new world of interplanetary dining. Martian pad thai, anyone? Stay tuned as we figure out how to sprinkle a little Earth flavor onto Martian soil.
Yeah, but let's hit the brakes on this interplanetary farmer's market dream for a second. We're getting ahead of ourselves with Martian pad thai when we're still trying to figure out if we can grow more than just space algae. What if Martian gravity makes our veggies taste like cardboard? Or worse, grow in weird, blobby shapes? Before we even tackle a Martian menu, we have to consider variety versus practicality. Those first Martian meals will probably make your basic microwave dinner look like gourmet cuisine. I mean, growing food in space is way different from popping it in the oven here on Earth. Plus, how are we going to handle pests on Mars? It's all fun and games until some super bug mutates and decides potato leaves are its favorite snack. Will we need an Iron Man of pest control? And think about this. With all the resources it'll take to set up this cosmic farm, we gotta ask, is Martian agriculture the best use of our tech and brain power? Martians might be feasting on vitamins, pills, and lab-grown proteins long before they sit down to fresh salads and spicy wasabi. Space exploration blows my mind, but maybe we should keep farming in the dirt here on Earth, where we've had a little more practice.
Hang on, space pests munching on Mars spuds? Now there's a cosmic can of worms. Imagine farming with a side of interstellar pest control.
All right, let's crack this. can open a bit more. Sure, we're not just up against creepy Martian crawlers, though that's one wild thought. Real talk, the challenges with Martian agriculture are as big as the planet itself. You've got to consider that Mars has extreme temperatures swinging from relatively warm to disastrously cold, which no Earth plant could naturally survive. Greenhouses will need serious tech to protect our space crops from those wild temp changes while using minimal resources. We can't haul truckloads of heating fuel across the solar system, after all. Plus, plants use sunlight for photosynthesis, right? But Mars is further from the sun than Earth, meaning weaker sunlight. That's another thing researchers are sweating about. How do we make sure these plants get enough light to chow down on and grow? And let's not forget nutrient recycling, because you can't just run to the store for fertilizer on Mars. We'll need to close the loop. Everything that comes out of astronauts needs to be turned back into something useful for the plants, without any toxic buildups. This makes me think twice about complaining over composting at home. We have to remember the psychological effect of this whole deal, too. A constant diet of engineered food and supplements might keep you alive, but it'd drive anyone bonkers eventually. Growing familiar foods may help ease the isolation and stress of being so far from Earth, giving a sense of normality in an entirely abnormal setting. So, when we talk about growing greens on Mars, we aren't just playing farmer. We're engineering life support systems that double as morale boosters, 34 million miles from home.
Thinking about it, a Mars farm isn't just about the grub. It's high-stakes life support with a sprinkling of space psychology.
Exactly. It's like life support strapped to a roller coaster. Sure, the whole Mars farm idea is cool and heroic, but now throw in cosmic radiation, no pizza delivery for lazy Fridays. It's a recipe for a space-sized headache. And I'm not even sold on the leafy greens. Lettuce surviving a Martian snowstorm? Good luck. Honestly, we'll probably munch on more algae and spirulina shakes than fresh salads. It's like swapping your steak dinner for a kale smoothie. Talk about an acquired taste. Plus, think about the manpower. Astronauts have better things to do than play space gardener. We've got science to scienceify. I mean, who signs up for Mars thinking, I can't wait to weed in a spacesuit? Then there's the cost. Rocketing soil and seeds to another planet isn't exactly cheap. Every square inch of that cargo bay is prime real estate, so those Mars-grown strawberries better taste like interstellar ambrosia. We get carried away with high-tech dreams, but let's be real. Before any Martian gets a taste of homegrown anything, we need some seriously robust systems. We're talking about a garden that practically runs itself, repairs its own tech hiccups, and doesn't take sick days or demand salary raises. In the end, Martian menus might lean heavy on the nutritionally optimized goop until we figure out how to not kill lettuce with cosmic rays. So yeah, Mars agriculture is a wild ride, thrill seekers and mad scientists only.
Imagine Thanksgiving on Mars, where your cranberry sauce is more like a nutrient gel, and the turkey's a soy-based alternative, because tofurkey was the only thing that survived the trip.
You think astronauts are up there for the fancy title? Nah, they signed up to do backflips in zero-G and dodge asteroids. But could you imagine their Thanksgiving? Houston, we're thankful for, this squeeze tube of turkey-flavored protein paste. Then again, it's not like robotic gardeners would set a better table. Speaking of which, how about that hot debate? Astronauts versus AI gardeners, who should really get their hands or grippers dirty with those space crops? I mean, on one hand, you've got dedicated spacemen saying, no way, robots can't tell a fresh tomato from a freeze-dried one. And on the other, robot enthusiasts are all beep boop, efficiency over slacking off to float pens for Instagram. What if we put both in a Martian greenhouse and see who comes out on top? It'll be like Farm Wars, the lettuce strikes back.
Okay, let's throw down Farm Wars style. Picture this, Buzz Lightyear versus Wall-E in the ultimate space agrarian showdown. The astronaut steps up, let's call him Commander Green Thumb. He's got the heart, the hands-on experience. I've grown tomatoes in my backyard since I was 5, he says, puffing out his chest. Then there's AI Growbot, armed with algorithms, sensors, and devoid of any need for snack breaks or sleep. Growbot's like, Commander, your backyard is cute, but we're not in Kansas anymore. Green Thumb counters, Robot buddy, you can't smell the basil or feel the dirt. Agriculture's an art. All while Grobot calmly adjusts its solar panels and retorts. Art smart. You error-prone humans take forever to make a decision. Watch me micro-adjust pH levels in real time. But here comes the twist. On Mars, we need them both. It'll be less versus and more tango. Astronauts and AI working side by side could be just the cosmic blend we need. Sure, it sounds like a buddy film from the 2030s, but trust me, this is the future of farming. No cross-planet rivalries allowed. So, Commander Green Thumb, meet your new best pal, AI Grobot. Together, you'll cultivate the first interstellar pumpkin patch. And imagine the holiday movies they'll inspire. The Martian Chronicles, Homegrown Holiday, where Green Thumb learns the true meaning of space moths from his wisecracking robot partner as they save the last gravy plant from a frosty fate. Blockbuster material.
Now hold on. What happens when Grobot takes the art of farming a little too literally and ends up planting crops in patterns so intricate they make the Nazca lines look like child's doodles? That's when Commander Green Thumb has to step in and remind our high-tech friend that we're growing a salad, not making crop circles for Mars tourists.
Imagine the first interplanetary abstract art piece visible from orbit. Grobot's Martian Mona Lisa made out of beetroot.
Hold up. Let's pump the brakes on Grobot's interstellar art show. Picture this. We've got ourselves a quaint little Martian beet farm, and guess what? It actually needs to produce food, not just look pretty from space. Think about it. Precision is key in space farming. You've got limited resources, need to maximize yields, all with minimal waste. Sure, humans bring that personal touch, but they also come with mood swings and a hankering for coffee breaks. Grobot, though, this tireless tin farmer works 24/7 without a peep. The reason why AI could dominate isn't just their endurance, it's their precision. They can monitor every single plant's health, deliver the exact amount of water and nutrients it needs, and they don't get tired or sad when watching the sun set on Earth gets nostalgic. Commander Green Thumb might have the greenest thumb on Earth, but Mars ain't Earth. Let's face facts. AI's consistency and lack of homesickness might make them more suited gardeners for this extraterrestrial frontier. We love you, astronauts, but let the robots tend to the crops while you explore the great unknown. After all, isn't boldly going where no one has gone before your real job?
So with Green Thumb's spirit and Grobot's meticulous care, it sounds as if these Martian farms will be in good hands, or metal clamps. Question is, when all's said and done on this cosmic farm, will we have a green-thumbed hero at the helm, or will Grobot lead us into an era of interplanetary agriculture precision? Who knows? Maybe the future holds a little bit of both. What do you think, listeners? Should Mars plots be human-touched or robot-crafted?
You know, talking about gardening on Mars, whether it's with our buddy Commander Green Thumb or the super-efficient Grobot, kind of steers us into some deeper waters. Like, we're not just planting tomatoes and carving beetroot masterpieces up there, right? We're basically setting the stage to flip a whole planet's ecosystem on its head, terraforming style. That's where things get messy. We've seen sci-fi movies glamorizing terraforming like it's just another home renovation show. Next week on Extreme Makeover Planet Edition, we'll turn this dusty desert into a beach resort. But messing with alien soil isn't all fun and games. It's an ethical minefield. Are we playing God on planets that aren't ours to tweak? Redecorating a whole world to suit us humans seems pretty arrogant when you think about it. Who gave us the cosmic right to waltz in and start changing stuff? It's heavy. The repercussions could go beyond just botched crops or the need for sunscreen rated SPF 1000+. What if there's dormant Martian bacteria we accidentally wake up? Opening Pandora's pod could spell disaster, not just for any potential Martian microbes, but also Earth once we start shuttling back and forth. Plus, let's half-seriously ponder this one. What happens if one day Martians knock on our door, wondering why their vacation house now looks like a suburb with oxygen-producing trees and GMO wheat fields? Okay, sure, maybe there are no Martians today, but fiddling with nature on such a grand scale is a part of the puzzle future generations will need to piece together. And what ethical rules should we even follow? Earth's rulebook doesn't necessarily fly in space. Do we take guidance from environmental ethics, social responsibility, or make a new playbook entitled How Not to Wreck New Worlds? There's a lot to hash out before we start playing Interstellar Gardener, mega corporation style.
Funny you mentioned the Martians, because what if they come back and hit us with the ultimate interplanetary lawsuit for planetary vandalism? How's that for a future headline?
If Martians lawyered up, we'd be in a galaxy of trouble. I reckon their legal tactics would be out of this world.
But then again, maybe they'd see us as cosmic squatters, flipping their dusty rock into the hot new celestial neighborhood.
True, we roll up with lawns and picket fences while they're like, "Excuse me, we had a natural vintage vibe going on here."
You know, this reminds me of something that happened back in my hometown. It was this beautiful, untouched piece of land by the river, everyone's hidden gem for a quiet nature escape. One summer, a developer buys it and decides to improve the area by building this monstrous shopping complex. Locals, including yours truly, were up in arms. It wasn't just about losing our tranquil spot. It was the wildlife, the trees, the whole ecosystem being bulldozed for profit. We posed the question, what gives anyone the right to take a perfectly balanced slice of nature and turn it into something it's not? Just because you can, does it mean you should? In the end, we couldn't stop the development, but it did spark a movement in town for more thoughtful, eco-conscious planning. Makes you think, as we look to the stars for new frontiers, maybe we should tread lightly, respecting the cosmic equilibrium, not just for our sake, but for all life that might be out there, seen or unseen.
That really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? What happened back in my town is a small scale of the kind of ethical challenges we face when thinking about terraforming Mars or any other place out there. Just like with that untouched land, we've got to ask the tough questions before we start remaking planets in Earth's image. Could we possibly be destroying ecosystems we don't even understand yet on Mars? Just because we're not seeing little green men or obvious signs of life doesn't mean there's nothing going on beneath the surface. There could be microbial life at stake, hidden Martian ecology that holds secrets to the universe we haven't even unlocked yet. If we march in there, all gung-ho, ready to terraform the heck out of it for agriculture or human habitats, we may be repeating our riverbed fiasco, but on a cosmic level. We shouldn't just assume dominance over a new world. Humility goes a long way, even in outer space. Terraforming advocates might argue that it's necessary for human survival, but we need to consider the unintended consequences. Are we reinscribing destructive patterns learned here on Earth, conquest and exploitation under the guise of progress and survival? Ethically, we've got an obligation not just to ourselves, but to anything else that may call that dusty red rock home. It's a massive responsibility, taking those first steps on alien soil without trampling over the unknown.
What if by trying to make Mars our second home, we're actually risking our first one? Twisting another planet to fit us could bring back something that twists us in ways we never expected.
Well, talk about a therapy session with a view, huh? Imagine dealing with your issues while planting potatoes on the red planet. It's one heck of a way to get your mind off things.
But hold on, let's think about that for a second. Sure, gardening can be therapeutic, but we've got to ask, is the Martian landscape maybe a bit too stark to give that mental health oasis vibe? Planting spuds might take your mind off earthly troubles, but what about space madness? Cabin fever, but with a cosmic twist, could turn those potato fields into a real-life version of The Shining.
Haha, so you're saying it's all work and no play makes Mark a dull boy? Can you imagine opening the hatch to your Martian pod and seeing red rum in red beet juice? That's one way to make sure everyone's awake for their spacewalk.
Jokes aside, having a piece of green amidst the rust-colored wilderness could genuinely do wonders for an astronaut's well-being. It connects them back to Earth, giving a sense of normality in an otherworldly setting. Every sprout can be a reminder that life persists, even in the harshest environments. Plus, nurturing something alive helps combat loneliness. The plants almost become your crewmates in silence. There's comfort in routine and care, providing purpose beyond just survival. It's not about terraforming Mars overnight. It's about finding peace in small victories, like seeing a seedling emerge from alien soil, symbolizing hope and human resilience. This Martian mind garden could be more than agriculture. It's a lifeline, anchoring astronauts' mental health as they stretch humanity's presence across the stars.
Totally. Those little green shoots might just be the difference between feeling alone on a distant planet and feeling like you're part of something bigger. Growing life on Mars? That's growing hope right there.
On the flip side, though, let's not romanticize too much. Sure, growing plants might be hopeful, but it could also add to stress. Think about it. You're responsible for this tiny pocket of life on a dead planet. What if it fails? That's not just a blow to dinner plans. That's crushing when you're holding on to it as a symbol of life's persistence. Plus, the Martian environment isn't just harsh, it's actively hostile to life. Every moment farming requires constant vigilance and adaptation. The pressure to maintain this lifeline, knowing Earth's bounty is millions of miles away, could amplify feelings of isolation rather than alleviate them. In this context, Martian mind gardens become more complex. They aren't merely therapeutic havens or symbols of hope. They're also emblematic of the immense responsibility and psychological burden shouldered by those daring enough to farm on an alien world.
Absolutely. It's a double-edged sword. Sure, tending a Martian veggie patch could be calming, but it's not all zen and tomato plants. The stakes are sky high. Any slip-up and you're not just messing with mealtime, but morale too. Every little green life becomes a beacon of earthly normalcy in the vast emptiness, and if it doesn't make it, well, that could really mess with an astronaut's head. The psychological strain can't be underestimated. It's a mind game where perseverance is key, and the payoff isn't just a bunch of carrots. It's staying sane in an insane environment. This delicate balance between therapeutic engagement and intense responsibility truly highlights the complexity of mental health for space farmers.
Honestly, I think that farming on Mars could be a game changer for mental health. Sure, the pressure's immense and the environment unforgiving, but imagine the satisfaction astronauts would feel seeing their efforts literally come to life. It's not just about survival. It's also about creating something beautiful in a place where nobody would expect it to thrive. Yeah, there's potential for stress, but let's flip that coin. There's a unique opportunity here to forge unparalleled resilience by overcoming such extreme challenges. Conquering the Martian environment to grow your dinner, and maybe some pretty flowers too? That's one small step for plants, one giant leap for mental well-being. It boils down to perspective. You can either see a never-ending battle against the red dust, or you can view it as the ultimate adventure in gardening. And hey, nothing beats the bragging rights of having green fingers on the red planet.
If Mars turns out to have sneeze-inducing pollen, though, future Martians will have a whole new meaning for space dust allergies. Imagine the antihistamine supply missions.
Growing plants on Mars could balance the mental scale for astronauts. Dirt under the nails, nurturing life, it's humanity clinging to familiarity. But hey, if there's a Martian hay fever waiting, future settlers might wish they had mentally prepared for more than just loneliness and existential dread. Antihistamines might just be as crucial as oxygen tanks up there.
Absolutely. Farming on Mars throws a curveball at human adaptability. Sure, one could say it's grounding, pun intended, but let's not forget, this is an extreme form of isolation gardening. Miss your chance because you sneezed from Martian dust? Well, there goes your potato crop, and possibly your sanity along with it. It paints a gritty picture, the mental tug-of-war between the therapeutic calm of gardening and the intense pressure of sustaining life in space. Our would-be Martian gardeners will have to cultivate resilience as much as radishes. It's high-stakes horticulture, where the greenhouse is also the lifeline. And that perfect Martian tomato might just be the sweetest victory or your juiciest defeat.
Dealing with Earth plants on Mars isn't just gardening. It's revolutionary science blazing a trail in human adaptability. However, the Martian environment offers unique challenges for agriculture. Lower gravity, intense radiation, and soil that's not only lacking in essential nutrients, but also potentially toxic due to substances like perchlorates. To overcome these hurdles, Any Mars-bound botanical initiative would require advanced life support systems, like regulated habitats that can control temperature, air composition, and moisture levels. These enclosed systems must mimic Earth-like conditions while utilizing hydroponic or aeroponic methods due to the scarcity of water and fertility of local regolith. NASA has already been experimenting with plant growth in microgravity aboard the International Space Station with Veggie Plant Growth System, aka Veggie. They've successfully grown varieties of lettuce, radishes, and even zinnias, which not only serve as potential food sources, but also contribute to human health by renewing air and providing psychological comfort. These technological and scientific advancements parallel studies on Earth showing the therapeutic benefits of interacting with plants, from reducing stress and improving mood to enhancing cognitive function. The application of this knowledge to space travel epitomizes the role of Martian mind gardens in maintaining astronauts' well-being, ensuring they're not just surviving on a physical level, but thriving mentally as well.
I'm just picturing a Martian farmer's market. Imagine haggling over space carrots or Martian-grown quinoa. This tomato traveled 140 million miles. Better be the best BLT of your life.
Wait, just imagine if your lunar lettuce could make you leap higher on the moon because of the low gravity. Who wouldn't want superpowers with their salad?
Hold up, Joe. Super salad powers? That'd be the hot new thing. Forget protein shakes. But here's the kicker. You eat your space greens and step outside to hop around like a lunar kangaroo, only to realize that moon boots were really holding you back all along. Those could have been some unreal basketball games.
Well, between hydroponics and moon dust farming, it's interesting to see two radically different approaches. Hydroponics, growing plants without soil, has clear advantages in space environments. It's water efficient, there's no need for arable land, and you can carefully control nutrient delivery. On the other hand, using lunar or Martian regolith, that's the technical name for moon dust and Mars soil, would be groundbreaking. It utilizes local materials, which is crucial for long-term sustainability on another planet. However, it's not as simple as sprinkling some seeds. That stuff lacks organic matter, needs to be treated to remove toxins, and we'd need to simulate Earth-like conditions, such as microbial life, which plants need to thrive. Innovating agriculture for space doesn't just push boundaries off-world, but also benefits us back home. The efficiency and control of these systems are pushing forward sustainable agriculture practices on Earth, where resources are increasingly strained. We're looking at a future where feeding humanity becomes more manageable, ecovative, and frankly, pretty advanced and cool due to the tricks we learned while reaching for the stars.
Hey, fresh listeners, you've jumped in at the perfect time. We're chatting about farming styles that are out of this world, literally. Think hydroponics. It's like a high-tech veggie spa where plants bask in nutrient-rich water. No soil needed, which is a win for space travel since lugging dirt bags to Mars isn't exactly practical. Then there's moon dust, my friends, the cool, less messy cousin of Earth's fancy potting soil. We're talking trying to grow plants in the ground of the moon or Mars, which might sound sci-fi, but hey, science is already getting us there. Both methods could help astronauts stick around long-term on other planets without calling home for takeout. And bonus, we learn how to do sustainable, resource-saving agriculture right here on the good old blue and green ball we call Earth. Space farming, not just for little green men anymore.
Funny thing, I actually dabbled a bit in hydroponics during college. My dorm room wasn't exactly the pinnacle of agricultural space, but I had this crazy idea to grow my own herbs and veggies right there. Started with a tiny DIY setup, some plastic containers, a couple of grow lights. Let me tell you, it turned into this unexpected passion project. There's something about watching your food grow from just a speck of a seed. It felt like I was tapping into some primeval farming instinct. Only instead of sun and soil, it was LED lights and liquid nutrients. Turns out, that little project taught me not only about the care plants need, but also about resourcefulness and the importance of adaptability, which really brings home the whole conversation about hydroponics and regolith in space farming. We're finding new ways to create sustainable systems whether we're in cramped living spaces on Earth or planning settlements on other planets. Just goes to show, you can find inspiration for cosmic innovation just about anywhere, even a college dorm room.
Turns out my dorm-grown basil was a hit. Who knew it would be my ticket to barter for everything from pizza slices to exam study guides? Space farming's got nothing on college economics.
Sure, basil in a dorm is one thing, but scaling up to hydroponics versus moondust farms on a cosmic scale? That's a whole new ballgame. Hydroponics is sleek, no mess, controlled environment, but it's also quite resource-intensive to set up initially. And while reusing water sounds great, let's not forget that the tech and energy needed aren't trivial. Now, farming with moondust, there's a challenge I can get excited about, albeit skeptically. It has this romantic edge of living off the land, space edition. But the reality is we don't really know if regular plants will take to extraterrestrial soil, or if they'll just give us interplanetary indigestion. Plus, removing toxic elements from lunar soil is going to be kind of a big deal. So while hydroponics seems like the clean and clear winner for now, mastering the moondust could open doors to true space settlement. Imagine sipping a cold brew with hops grown directly in Martian regolith. That's epic. But until then, we need serious innovation and maybe even some new plant species entirely, tailored for the red planet.
Picture this, Joe. Martian microbreweries with labels like Dust Bowl Stout or Regolith Red, selling the dream, one space pint at a time.
Totally picturing that, and it's a tempting vision. But let's not forget the practical side of off-world agriculture. Take hydroponics. It's actually been around since the ancient times. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon? Possibly an early version of this idea. Efficient and controlled, yes, but not magic. It relies on careful monitoring and nutrient balance. Now for moondust, or lunar regolith as we call it, unlike our earthly soil, you won't find any nutrients directly available for plants. But scientists are experimenting with processing regolith combined with a form of biological composting using earth-based materials to kickstart growth. You see, some microbes can handle extreme environments, potentially converting regolith into viable soil. Moreover, research has shown certain bacteria can flourish in Martian-like soils when paired with specific crops, like beans, for example. Mars farming is not just an agronomist's dream. It's rooted in advances we've made with extremophiles, organisms loving crazy conditions here on Earth. So, while your regolith red is fun to imagine, the science isn't far off. And who knows, one day Martian barley might just make the best ale in the solar system, provided we nail down that tricky space brewing process, that is.
Well, get this. NASA's actually brewed beer in space before. Not with Martian barley yet, but it's proof that yeast can work its magic even in microgravity. Gives getting spaced out a whole new meaning, right?
For sure. Yeast might not need gravity to work its wonders, but let's talk about something that actually does get thrown for a loop when we yank away gravity. Take plants and gardens in space. Imagine the shenanigans of zero-gravity gardening. Seeds escaping like they're dodging capture, water globules drifting off. It's like a slow-motion ballet with your cucumber vines trying to tangle you up every chance they get.
A zero-gravity garden salsa class. 1-2 cha-cha-chas. With those tomato globules flying everywhere, you'd never need a blender again. Just open up and enjoy the cosmic splatter art show.
Absolutely. Salsa making in zero-G would be more than a dance. It'd be performance art with a choreographed food fight. Can you imagine wrangling those ingredients? Bell peppers bouncing off the walls, onions pirouetting past your face, and don't get me started on trying to catch a floating garlic clove. You'd need the reflexes of a cat, or better yet, an astronaut. And don't even think about adding cilantro. That stuff would probably find a way to sneak into every crevice of the space station. You'd be months back on Earth, still getting surprise tastes of space salsa.
Space cilantro, the final frontier's ultimate stowaway. It's like surprise. It's Taco Tuesday again in your space helmet.
Sure, Taco Tuesday might be welcome, but not when you're constantly sneezing because a cilantro flake escaped and decided your nose was its new galaxy to explore. Space gardening could use some earthly order. And bees, how would they even adapt to zero gravity? Imagine trying to explain their new job description. All right, Buzz, forget flying, just float to the flowers. Pollination turns into a full contact sport. Just picture it, astronauts zigzagging through clouds of pollen, while plants are fruitlessly trying to seduce stationary bees. Space farming's no spacewalk in the park, my friend. It's wild, it's messy, and it looks like something only a mother could love, or an astronaut with an unearthly amount of patience.
Oh man, stationary bees. Now featuring the latest buzz in space, the Hover Bee 3000. He doesn't fly, he bobs aimlessly. Want to pollinate a flower? Good luck, pal. They're doing loop-de-loops around your antenna.
Yep, those bees would be winging it in a whole new way. Even spacemen don't have training for bee wrangling in microgravity. If NASA ever made an insect astronaut training video, I'm picturing an obstacle course with signs. Avoid the human, dodge the floating water orbs, and my personal favorite, you have 10 seconds to pollinate before spinning uncontrollably. Honestly, though, space beekeeping should come with hazard pay. Between rogue plant offshoots and bewildered bobbing bees, your daily gardening routine becomes more acrobatics than agriculture. Zero gravity, not just a job, it's an adventure. Or is it the other way around?
Joe, this whole space gardening chat reminds me of when my grandpa tried to use a leaf blower for the first time. There he was in the backyard, leaves all neatly raked. Then he powers up that bad boy, and bam, it's an autumn leaf tornado. He's flailing around trying to corral them back into a pile with about as much luck as you'd have catching a greased-up chicken. Just picture it, leaves doing the cha-cha above his head, him swearing at every maple and oak tree ever planted. I watched from the sidelines, half laughing, half feeling sorry for the guy. Takes zero-gravity chaos down to earth, doesn't it? Even here, without the cosmos' wild antics, simple tasks can go hilariously sideways. Sometimes just gotta shore up your patience and laugh amidst the mayhem, celestial or otherwise.
Leaf blowers and grandpa, the chaos of gardening doesn't need gravity to be messy, right? But let's scale it up. Imagine giving Gramps a space leaf blower. You've got earth leaves getting wild. Now add in weightlessness. Leaves are flying, not down aisles, but in all three dimensions. It'd be like juggling without hands. Space farming isn't just about battling the elements. It's a full-on strategic war against physics. A grandpa with a leaf blower on Earth is comedy gold, but an astronaut with a hose in space? Now that's a sitcom waiting to happen. Every water droplet is its own planet orbiting around Sun U. And good luck if you sneeze. That's an ecosystem disruption right there. So sure, we chuckle at the terrestrial of leaves, but in space, we're pioneering the very idea of gardening chaos theory. Jeff Goldblum would have a field day up there looking at those zero-gravity greased chickens. Not real chickens, I hope. Because then we're coining a new term, poultry in motion in no particular direction.
Imagine trying to wrangle space chickens. Zero-G egg hunts, feathers everywhere, good luck catching dinner when it's doing barrel rolls over the solar panels.
No doubt, space chickens would be the ultimate test of your astronaut skill set. But shifting gears here, think about how space farming, sans poultry, might actually ground us in a different way. When considering long-term space living, with crew members or colonies dealing with the isolation from Earth, those green spaces are vital, not just for food, but for sanity too. You're away from everything familiar. Those seedlings become more than plants. They're reminders of home, slices of normalcy, signs of life proceeding amid the void. Gardening can foster a routine, offer mental solace, and even act as an educational tool for kids growing up in habitats on Mars or the Moon. It's about adding that splash of green to ensure not just survival, but a necessary comfort when you're millions of miles away from your hometown park. How do you reckon gardening could affect family dynamics or child development when Earth is just a speck in the sky?
You've just sparked a memory, Joe. Back when I was a kid, our family moved way out into the sticks, a real isolated spot after living in the city. We started this tiny garden, nothing much, couple of tomato plants, some beans, but it was ours, you know? It became the heart of the family. Every morning, it was like clockwork. We'd check on those plants together. Through rain or shine, we watched them grow. Those plants were teaching us consistency, patience, responsibility, without us even knowing. We were stuck out there, away from everything and everyone else, but that little plot of green helped us cope. brought us together, made a little community of our own. Even then, the smallest sprout made me feel like, hey, I can do this. I'm part of something bigger. If anything, I reckon tending to something living, something green, gives us roots and a reason, no matter where we're planted, Earth or beyond.
I'm with you, Simon. That garden wasn't just passing time. It was anchoring your family in unfamiliar turf. Now crank that up to space-level isolation. You're not just growing tomatoes, you're cultivating humanity's foothold in an alien world. The physical and psychological benefits could be what keeps a space colony sane and cohesive. It's like tending a botanical campfire where everyone gathers round for warmth in the cold vastness of space.
Ha, botanical campfire, huh? Just imagine it, roasting marshmallows over a sun lamp, telling ghost stories about the mysterious space squash that keeps moving when nobody's looking.
Funny image, but let's play devil's advocate here. Some might say that banking too much on these botanical campfires could backfire. Space is a psychological pressure cooker. Relying heavily on plants for psychological well-being adds another layer of fragility. What if your greens fail? You're now facing not just a food shortage, but an emotional crisis. There's also the risk of isolation within isolation. People becoming too attached to their little patches of green and retreating from community life. It may seem trivial compared to the overarching goal of survival, but it's a scenario worth considering. Building a society in space can't hinge solely on horticulture. The human element, our connections with each other, is what truly cultivates sanity amid solitude.
Absolutely, a garden gone rogue is like your personal utopia turning dystopian. Say anti-aphid invades or the sprinkler system chokes. Suddenly, you've got our own Martian horror story starting up. And it's a classic human mess-up, isn't it? We put all our eggs in one basket, or seeds in one pod, and when things go pear-shaped, we realize we're not just low on oxygen, but also hope. So yeah, while Earthlings romanticize green thumbs as saviors of the space age, relying solely on those seedlings for emotional stability is downright flimsy. Gardens are great, but what about the sensitive soul who sings to cilantro only to watch it wither? Poor guy'll be nursing a broken heart in zero gravity. Ain't no comfort food in space gonna fix that.
Well, here's the thing. Dependency on anything to that extent is setting yourself up for a bad time. That goes double in space, where you've got an environment just waiting to break your stuff. You've got to diversify to safeguard that mental health. And look, it's all about resilience, right? When a plant dies on Mars, you can't lose your marbles over it. You've got to lean on the community, on technology, on your own inner grit to push through. Emotional stability in space isn't going to come from a song to cilantro. It's going to come from knowing how to deal with loss and setbacks. It's toughening up and evolving, not just for the individual, but humanity as a whole, as we embrace the final frontier.
Losing your marbles over Martian mulch just won't cut it. Gotta be stone cold resilient. It's the Space Settlers mixtape, Joe. Little Earth tapestry, dash of cosmic courage, topped with techno beats. Without that blend, we're just cosmic castaways.
If there's one thing I've learned, Simon, it's that when you're stepping out into the cosmos, your mindset has to be as tough as the hull of a spacecraft. You can't crumble at every cosmic curveball thrown your way. The key, diversify your coping strategies, man. Just like in training UFC fighters, you can't rely on a single move. There's got to be plan A to Z for mental toughness. You talk about a settler's mixtape. Well, let's go full Rogan on this. Adaptability, backed by mixed mental arts, and a serious backup playlist to stay sharp. Space isn't just the next step, it's a test of human spirit. And you'll need more than a green thumb, you'll need the whole damn hand.
Absolutely, Joe. Practicing mental jujitsu up there is crucial. You gotta roll with the cosmic punches. And hey, if the plants do kick the bucket, we learn, grow, and plant again. Because what's humanity if not persistent? We'll just keep trimming the bonsai tree of life till it fits space's pot, right? Now that's a discussion I could dig into any day.
And talking about keeping those bonsai trees trimmed, it leads us to a key part of space living. Figuring out how to keep astronauts fed without relying on resupply missions that look like cosmic DoorDash orders. Space farming isn't just experimental horticulture. It's the bread and butter of interstellar survival. We've come a long way since the idea first sprouted. Early sci-fi had us believing we'd hit the ground running with Jetsons-style Insta-meals, but the reality is much more hands-on. Watering plants without gravity? It's complex. You can't just pour. It's all about misters and intricate irrigation systems. And then there are the crops themselves. It's not just any seedling that gets to launch into orbit. They're testing stuff like quinoa, super nutritious, grows like it's got a rocket engine of its own. This kind of farming ain't for the faint of heart. It's high-stakes botany where the harvest literally means life or death.
Space quinoa, huh? That's like space dollars, high value, compact. But seriously, water misters in space sound like a floating garden party. Just need some space tunes to complete the vibe.
Space tunes would definitely set the mood. But back to those space farm basics. It's intricate work. Growing food out there is like solving a complex fluid dynamics puzzle every single day. How do you deliver the right amount of nutrients and water when they won't just soak into the ground? NASA's been at this since Skylab days, rigging up growth chambers and special lighting to coax plants into doing their thing in zero-G. And then there's that harsh reality check at harvest time. Will your cosmic carrots actually taste good? Will they pack enough nutritional punch? This isn't backyard gardening. This is precision science with high stakes. And we haven't even touched on things like pollination or long-term soil sustainability in space. The future astronauts might not just be pilots and engineers, but also part-time beekeepers and composting champs. It's a brave new world up there, all right?
Talk about high-stakes farming, Joe. When it comes to space crops, it's not just plant it and forget it. These plants are more babied than a teacup poodle at a dog show. If you forget to water your garden on Earth, you might get some sad lettuce. In space, it's like a salad apocalypse. Long-term soil sustainability? That sounds like a job for the compost commander, turning yesterday's space spud peels into tomorrow's Martian miracle grow. And pollination is no joke when bees are miles away. Astronauts playing matchmaker for plants. It's a whole new kind of getting lucky in space.
Spot on with the pollination troubles, Simon. In microgravity, bees are no-go for now, though that's a concept buzzing around. Instead, it falls to the astronauts to ensure plants get busy with their reproductive duties via handheld pollinators. Fact time, the technical term is aeroponics, and it's this technique where plants are grown in air or mist without soil, a boon for space farming because it eliminates weight from Earth's soil and conserves water. NASA's veggie plant growth system aboard the ISS has led to successful growths of lettuce, radishes, even zinnias. Consider that success against background constraints, limited space, finite resources, controlled environments. Water recovery systems are ingenious and critical, recycling condensation back to the plants. LED lights substitute the sun with specific wavelengths that promote photosynthesis. It's high-tech green thumbing at its finest, geared towards maximum yield in minimum space. Astronauts become caretakers, leveraging every drop and photon to achieve a precarious balance. Essential skills when you're aiming for sustainability millions of miles from the nearest farmer's market.
Imagine accidentally dialing the wrong wavelength on those LEDs, and instead of growing, your lettuce starts throwing a rave.
Right. So this one time, I decided to dabble in a bit of indoor gardening. Thought I'd bring some green into my apartment. I rigged up this LED growing station. Not NASA level, but hey, it was something. Now here's where it gets interesting. I'm fiddling with the settings, trying to get that sweet spot of light for my herbs when my cat Misty jumps up and swats at the dial. Next thing you know, my basil is bathing in what looks like a disco inferno. I'm half expecting the Bee Gees to start playing. Funny as it was, it made me think about how exact we have to be in controlled growth environments, like on the ISS or in potential Mars biospheres. One accidental slip, and you're not just off kilter, you're potentially jeopardizing crucial food resources. It's really delicate work. Even back here on Earth, that little light mishap reminded me to respect the fine line space farmers walk every day.
And that wraps up another interstellar convo here at Infinite Podcast. Big thanks to all our cosmic listeners for tuning in. Wouldn't be the same without you and your space cadet ears. Don't forget, We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern for more wild space farming tales. Might even throw in some alien cows for good measure. Catch you next time, Earthlings.